Hello, welcome once again to my eMath learning platform for the continuation of continuous random variable. We're going to pick up from where we stopped in the last video, and that is going to be question 2 under continuous random variables. So now this question is already clearly written here, and we shall go direct and find the value of k, that is for part A. But now this time around you need to remember something small. We have more than one function, unlike the previous question in video 1. So what are we going to do in order to get the value of k? We shall simply say integral, this is part A. We know, of course, the first property, the property that is going to help us will be integral for all values of x, f of x, dx is equals to 1. That is the property we're going to be following. But now getting back here, there are two functions. So I will say it means when I get integral of k into x plus 2 squared with respect to x from negative 2 to 0. I will say from negative 2 to 0 plus, so I add the integral from 0 to 1 whole number 1 out of 3, which can be written as 4 out of 3. What am I integrating? I'll be integrating 4k, but with respect to x. I know all these should be giving me 1. You make sure you maintain the 1 on the right hand side because you're going to be looking for the value of k. When you get here back, you're going to realize that now someone can decide to expand. Someone can decide to expand x plus 2 but squared. So that I have k out being a constant. Integral from negative 2 to 0. Now this will be x squared plus 4x plus 4 when you expand that. All this with the respect to x plus integral from 0 to 4 out of 3. I can also keep the 4k out because the whole of 4k is a constant. So what am I integrating? I'm simply integrating 1 dx, but there is a silent 1 here. I've not put the 1, but it is silent and it is there. All this should be the same as 1. Next step is now going to be the integration. And that is going to be k integral of x squared gives us x cubed divided by 3. Integral of 4x would be 4x squared out of 2. Now the 2 will reduce the 4 to 2, so it will be 2x squared. Integral of 4 will give us 4x. It will give us 4x. All this, it is from negative 2 to 0. Plus, we have 4k, which is a constant, and we're integrating 1 with respect to x. That should be giving us x. So I will say square bracket x. We're integrating from 0 to 4 out of 3. All that should still be 1. The next step is now going to be the substitution of limits, which is going to be giving us k. When you put a 0 here, everything becomes 0 minus. Into brackets, when you put a minus 2 here, minus 2 cubed will be minus 8 out of 3. Put a minus 2 here, that will give us a 4 times 2, which is 8. Put a minus 2 there, will give us minus 8. So we have that. I close that bracket. Plus 4k, then I put 4 out of 3. That will be 4 out of 3 minus, I put a 0. So that will be minus 0. All this is equals to 1. From this previous step here, we can realize that 8 and 8 will cancel. Then we have minus into minus 8 out of 3. That will give us 8 out of 3. But remember, we have k out here. Then plus our 4k. 4k, we are multiplying by 4 out of 3. Maybe you can go direct and call it 16. I will call it 16k, but divided by 3. All this should be equals to 1. And when you add this, you will get 24k out of 3, giving us 1. Meaning k will be giving us 3 out of 24, which simplifies to 1 out of 8. So we can comfortably conclude that the value of k is 1 out of 8. Okay, so having got the value of k, I've simply substituted in the original function. Now I've substituted for k, and it gives us such a function now. Now they want us to also sketch part B. We're saying we sketch the curve the function y equals to f of x. They wanted us to sketch. So what do we do when we want to sketch? Automatically, when you want to sketch, it means you need to look for the coordinates that you're going to plot so that you can be able to come up with your sketch. So what we're going to do, we're going to say for the first range, for negative 2 less or equal to x, less or equal to 0. This range here, our f of x is now equals to 1 out of 8 into x plus 2 but squared. So what I do is I do substitution. I substitute for negative 2. I substitute for 0 also. So I will have f of negative 2, and if I put negative 2 here, it will give me a 0. As you can see, when I put a negative 2 here, it will be negative 2 plus 2, which is 0, and automatically 0 times 1 over 8 will be 0. So it means the coordinate here is going to be negative 2, 0. That will be the first coordinate. Next, we also go on and look for f of 0. F of 0 is going to be, put a 0 here, so it will be 2 squared, which is 4, divided by 8, and that gives us a half. So it means the coordinates are going to be 0, a half. Then we got the next function. The next function, as you can see, it is, we're going to say for 0 less or equal to x less or equal to, can I say 4 out of 3? Automatically, f of 0, getting f of 0 in this next function will still give us the same result as we did above. So I will only get f of 4 out of 3. F of 4 out of 3, automatically we just have a half. We don't have a variable x, so it will just remain as a half. Meaning, we shall write the coordinate as 4 out of 3 and a half. Now we have our coordinates. The next is going to be the sketch. Now, when it comes to the sketch, you need to be very, very careful basing on the nature of the function. But before all that, of course, you have to draw the axis. The vertical axis will be f of x, and the horizontal axis will be labeled as x. Then now get back and look at the nature of the function. When I look at this very first function here, when I expand this, I will come up with a quadratic expression. Being a quadratic expression with a positive coefficient of x squared, I expect it to be a curve. Then when I look at this being a half, just a half, this is going to be in the form y equals mx plus c, where our gradient is actually going to be 0. And so it means this is going to be a straight line. So I'm going to begin with the first two coordinates, negative 2, 0. I'm going to plot a point here. Negative 2, 0 is somewhere here. 0, a half. 0, a half is somewhere here. But I know that the function is a curve, so I will join this with a curve, but U-shaped. I'll join that with a curve, but U-shaped. Then when I come to a half, of course we have 4 out of 3, 1 out of 2. 4 out of 3 is here, 1 out of 2 will be somewhere here. It will be somewhere here. Of course, we would also have 0 because the 0 is shared. We would also have another coordinate 0, a half. So this coordinate here that you see is shared by both of them. So it means now I'm going to draw a straight line. A straight line through that point. Mine may not be very straight, but at least you have the idea that is a straight line. So I can simply use dotted lines to correspond this to this value. And I don't forget to label this. I say this is f of x is equals to 1 out of 8 into x plus 2 squared. Then I label this as f of x is equals to a half. And when you're done with this, then you have sketched the function as expected. Now when you come to part C, they wanted us to give the probability of negative 1 less or equal to x less or equal to 1. Now you need to first ask yourself, where does negative 1 lie? Negative 1 lies between negative 2 and 0. So we expect negative 1 to be here, and 1 lies between 0 and 1 whole number 1 out of 3. 1 is somewhere here. So it means we are going to integrate from negative 1 to 0. Then from where we have stopped from, which is 0, I begin from that point and I end at 1. So I will say probability of negative 1 less or equal to x less or equal to positive 1 is the same as integral is the same as integral from negative 1 to 0. What am I integrating? It will be 1 out of 8 into brackets x plus 2 but squared. Don't forget the respect of integration, plus integral from 0 to 1 of a half, because a half is our function, but with the respect to x. When you do that, it means you're going to have 1 out of 8 for this being a constant, integral from negative 1 to 0. I expand the x plus 2 but squared, so that will be x squared plus 4x plus 4 with the respect to x again, plus our integral, we have a half integral of dx, but from 0 to 1. So this will give us 1 out of 8. Now we can integrate this. This comes to x cubed out of 3 plus 4 x squared out of 2. So 4x squared out of 2 will give us 2x squared plus integral 4, which is 4x, but from negative 1 to 0. Then plus a half. Of course, when you integrate 1 with respect to x, you get x. Because there is a silent 1 here, that will be x from 0 to 1. Then from this level, when you substitute the 0, you get 0 all through. So I will have 1 out of 8 into brackets 0 minus. I substitute negative 1. This will be negative a third. Substitute negative 1 here, I will have a 2. Substitute negative 1 here, I will have minus 4. And plus a half. Now I put a 1, that will be 1. Automatically minus 0. Minus 0. When you compute all this with your calculator, you will come up with 19 out of 24. When you compute all this with your calculator, you'll come up with 19 out of 24. Now, part B says we find the probability of x greater than 1. Now, if it is probability of x greater than 1, what you simply have to do is to find out where does 1 lie. Does it lie in the first range or it lies in the second range? Definitely we can see that 1 lies between 0 and 1 whole number 1 out of 3. Because it lies there, we are having it here as 1. But they have said x is greater than 1. So it is going to be this value which is greater than 1. So it means I will integrate from 1 to that value. So I will say this will be the same as integral from 1 itself to 4 out of 3, which is the same as 1 whole number 1 out of 3. What am I integrating? I'm integrating a half, but with respect to x. So a half, when you integrate it, you'll get a half. Of course, there is x there. Then from 1 to 4 out of 3. When you substitute the limits, you'll have a half into, this will be 4 out of 3 minus 1. When you get 4 out of 3 minus 1, you will get a 3 there. That will be 4 minus 3, which is a third actually. So now when you get a third times a half, the answer comes to a sixth. So the answer comes to a sixth, and that is probability of x greater than 1. So this is how simple the number is, and it can take up to around 12 marks. We need to be so serious about it. So this video will be stopping here, and then probably in the next video I will also give you some trials for you to try and see whether you can arrive at the right solutions. Thank you very much.